welcome to IBIC podcast, where we have candid conversations with empowered women who are passionate about investing in other women. Today, we have with us a strong engineering leader who is listed among the top women in media and ad tech. She has also been honored as a woman of influence by the Silicon Valley Business Journal. Shobana Radhakrishnan. She is a senior director of engineering at Google, and prior to this, she has led high-performing teams in her engineering journey, her leadership roles in Netflix, Symantec, Yahoo, as well as several other startups. She's also a board of director at NIA, a non-profit organization that focuses on empowering young women through education, giving them the power of choice to be architects of their own success stories. So welcome, Shobana. It's such a great privilege to have you with us.
Thank you, Serena, for this really warm welcome. So excited to be here speaking with you.
Okay, great. We just jump into all the questions. There are so many questions that are there for us today that we want to hear from you. Very inspiring inputs. And since you are a successful executive at Google, can you share with us your journey to success? What have been some key milestones or turning points along the way?
Definitely. I think it's very exciting to be part of the journey at Google at this time, especially when we are surrounded by so much innovation in AI and also so much global reach. We're able to interact with so many people around the world when we build our products, which is a very exciting time. I think, for me, it really all started when I first started hanging out with my father and fixing things around the home or like creating things, which now I'm reflecting that was actually engineering because my father was a mechanical engineer by training, but he felt brave enough to fix TVs, scooters, anything that's broken at home. He never wanted to get help from others. He would try to fix it whether he was officially trained in it or not. And as a kid who was about 10 then, I would be his helper, getting tools or the spanner that he needed or something like that. So I think I experienced the fun of just fixing stuff and figuring things out because of this, although I was not realizing it at that time. So when it was time to finish 12th standard and then decide, like many other families, are you going into engineering or medicine was the question in my family. And I actually, despite having admission to medical school, which was considered more traditionally girl-friendly, I actually chose to pursue engineering because I felt I just enjoyed logic and problem solving. And maybe for the girls today, it may be hard to fathom, those who are growing up in cities. But back then, it was a big debate. Like there was a lot of debating in the family of me choosing engineering over medicine. And for many months, my mom was not even comfortable. She kept saying, maybe next semester you can switch back. But because my father could see how much I preferred this and what I enjoyed, he was very supportive. And of course, my mom was happy either way because it was going to be a good journey. And so there's no looking back since then. I absolutely loved my 4 years at College of Engineering, Guindy, where I pursued electrical and electronics engineering. For me, the next turning point came when I first did coding, which was in C programming language on Unix, which was then the current latest operating system. And I had the opportunity to work on genetic algorithms for power systems optimization. And it was almost genetic algorithms were just a nascent field then. So this was an undergrad kid trying to figure something out from research papers, half of which you understand, half of which you need help to understand. And then I just enjoyed coding. I think it may sound very simple, but it's the instant gratification of building something and seeing it working that just excited me. And so that was a turning point in me deciding computer science is what I wanted to pursue for the rest of my life. So I pursued a master's at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and I've absolutely enjoyed it. I think it was very eye-opening for me to experience campus life in the US because you could take courses from any department. It was much more choice. You could go and audit classes, you could learn, you could get to know people. So it really opened my eyes to the breadth of opportunity, which I had not expected. It took a lot of cultural adjustment. I will not say that journey was easy because I had a very sheltered upbringing, typical, South Indian, Tamilian family, bringing up very conservatively. So everything was a big transition for me. I had never even stayed at my own relatives' houses without my parents until I stepped out of the home after graduation. So it was a difficult adjustment for me. But I think this part of just opening my eyes to the wide breadth of education was a big turning point too. And I'll say the third and the final turning point that I consider is I'll fast forward several years to the more recent how I joined Google almost 7 years ago now. Is because of someone I met more than, I would say, 13 years ago. I met my current manager on a Women in Tech panel that was hosted by a bunch of high school girls in the Bay Area, where I live. I live in California. And we had coffees, we had just stayed in touch. And then when Google reached out to me for this role, I actually did not even know who the hiring manager was. That's how Google processes. It's pretty neutral. There's an interview panel and all of that. And then it was only towards the end of the process I knew who the hiring manager was. And so that's exciting, because when I first met her, or when we kept in touch, having coffees over the media space and the industry, I don't think either of us would have guessed one day we would be working with each other in a formal role. And I wanted to share that also because a lot of times when I reflect on my career so far, it's planning by coincidence, is how I would say that. There's always what you want to do next, but I don't think about what I want to do 10 years or 20 years. Maybe I should, but this is how I am. But then things that you didn't anticipate present opportunities at your doorstep, and then you just grab them. I feel like my career definitely has had pivots that have included both elements.
Absolutely. That's really inspirational. So your early days of schooling and studying and college was all in India?
That's right. I completely grew up in Chennai. And so all of my kindergarten to high school to college was all 100% in Chennai. I was what we call a day scholar in Chennai, so never even stayed in the hostel, and commuted every day. In fact, many of my classmates probably still remember, my father used to drop me in college every day until my final year. So I
Yes.
completely grew up there.
Yeah. Because we have a lot of young women that we speak to, and especially from the south of India. So in Telangana, in Vijayawada, in Chennai, and all of these girls are so passionate about their engineering careers. And I'm sure that today, after listening to you, they will be totally inspired to reach and as a role model to you, look up to you as a role model to them, because you are the girl next door who is now in the Silicon Valley and enjoying that success and hard work. I'm sure there has been a lot of hard work that has gone into this, like you shared about the challenges, the culture shift that happens there. So what advice would you give to these young women aspiring to reach this similar levels of success in their careers? What should they look up to, or what should they be doing now to reach the success that you are enjoying?
I think maybe a few things come to mind. One is I feel maybe this sounds a bit cliche nowadays because people talk a lot about passion, but definitely do follow your passion, whatever you enjoy. Don't let somebody else tell you what you will enjoy. If you think you're going to enjoy something, just pursue it. So I think I know this we hear often today in speeches and talks, but as I mentioned earlier, that is the true life example for me, because I could have easily gone into medicine if I had succumbed to the pressure from my family. But I kept feeling, I kept staying very strong and no, this is what I want to do. And so I think that's one thing I would say, because I know many girls, I still have family in parts outside the cities in Tamil Nadu as well. So it's not as easy for girls who are growing up outside big cities. Even in big cities, there's a lot of socioeconomic constraints that girls face. Let's call that out too. But I think outside the cities, it's drastically more difficult because the pressure to get married. I mean, kids get married even at 18. I'm calling them kids very consciously, because the minimum marriageable age, the parents don't want to take any risks. It's like, let me get her married when I'm healthy, or there's always a good reason that's cited for girls to get married and have kids early. And so there are so many complex factors that come in the way. So I would say first, believe in what you really want to do. If you want to pursue education or a particular field, put your energy into fighting for yourself, essentially, as needed. And the second is find allies around you. Meaning that there would be that aunt or uncle who says, no, let her study this. We all have people in our family like that, or at least friends. It doesn't have to be your parents or your older siblings. Like, find the people who are supportive of what you want and get them to talk to your parents, get them to talk to people who are going to influence your decision. In my case, I was lucky that my ally was my dad, but it doesn't have to be. So always watch for your allies, like whatever your dream is, see who will support you and get them to talk to the people who affect your decisions at any point in time, whether it's education or later in your careers. And the third is knock on any door. One thing I do see, even in high school kids in the Bay Area, but I've seen in girls and women throughout my career, even today I see this with women I work, is there is a hesitation to be wrong, or there's a hesitation to go ask for an opportunity and raise your hand first. Don't be, what's the worst that can happen? People are going to say no, and that's okay. So that hesitation I do see, somehow, like, the women I know seem to hesitate more before they raise their hand up for something that feels like beyond the obvious reach. So that would be the third thing I mentioned for any girls, anyone later in their careers too.
Yeah. So, do you think mentorship or networking plays an important role? And do you have any such experiences or insights to share?
Absolutely. I think great mentorship is very critical at every stage, even in college, all the way to later in your career. And even when eventually, I hope many of the girls you are mentoring become CEOs of companies later. But even when you are a CEO, you need a mentor. So it never stops. I really, truly believe in this. Because the reason and I will touch upon networking later too, with mentorship, I want to emphasize because oftentimes we look up to our manager or people in certain positions relative to us as the only people who can uplift us and support us. But oftentimes, mentors, your managers can be great mentors too. I've had managers who've been mentors, but not all managers naturally evolve into a mentorship relationship. And so, having a mentor, a sounding board, a confidant with whom you can be vulnerable, especially as you rise in your career, because there's going to be more uncertainty, is very important because you need to be able to trust someone who's been there, done it, to give you advice because they understand you. And can give you the thing that will uplift you. So that's one thing I would say is both formal. I've been part of both formal and informal mentorship arrangements as a mentee and a mentor, and so I'm a big believer of that. And you all have a great mentorship program yourselves at IBIC, which I'm a big fan of. And on networking, let me just also briefly mention a lot of times people you network with eventually also become your mentors and sponsors and allies. So, but the one thing I would say is be very intentional in networking. Going to meetups or conferences is great, but spend your energy on the meaningful network versus meeting as many people as possible and just not being in touch with them later. Even if you make 2 or 3 contacts, but they are meaningful because there's some shared passion or shared purpose, it's much more valuable to do that kind of networking than go for volume.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And with IBIC mentorship programs, we've seen young women who are so passionate about their careers and fulfilling their dreams, but they lack that leadership. They lack that a push. Sometimes they just need a little push, a little show in the right direction. And with the IBIC mentorship programs, that's where we have seen that it makes the maximum impact because they just want to see the role models out there. If she can do it, I can also do it. So I believe that I can do it because she has already overcome those challenges. So that's an experience that we share at IBIC as well. But over the years, we've seen that even though you have reached a certain success in your career, your journey towards that is full of obstacles, especially when you are a woman. So have you personally encountered or observed any instances of gender discrimination or bias in your career? And how have you been able to navigate through that?
So thank you for asking this really important question. One thing I will say, I'll also connect your previous question about mentors. Most of my mentors have been white men, actually. So I just wanted to add that data point just because it helps if women and girls are actually open to any like-minded mentor who is willing to uplift you versus someone who's only similar in demographic to you. Because personally, at least, maybe I have always seen people as similar based on their beliefs and values more than how they look. So I have very close colleagues whom I'm in touch with, whom I met several jobs ago, who are not Indian women, for example, who are not even women. So just looking for that shared values or something that you both enjoy as a passion is a better way to find high quality mentors and allies. So I will mention that as well before coming to your question. I think the way I think about have I faced discrimination, when I reflect on that, I think there are social factors that play into what we could interpret as bias could be just social factors around you. Or economic constraints or people's assumptions of what women should do or can do. And I have had a few examples. For example, even social pressure too. When I had my kids, most of my extended family, especially the previous generations, they would be more interested in whether I fed the kids and I've bathed the kids and taken care of the kids more than my career. Now, is that gender bias from my own aunts and uncles? Maybe it is. But they're all there to support me anyway. They are the same aunts and uncles who helped take care of my baby when I had a late night call. So I don't look at gender bias in isolation. I just look at why are these people making this assumption and how can I turn them into people who can be allies in what I want to do. But I think that is the way I have experienced it. So I just gave you some day-to-day examples. But I took that to be this is normal for them because they come from a different frame of reference than I do. I have had examples where people have assumed I'm not in engineering because I'm a woman. People have assumed a certain job profile. People have, for example, assumed I was a program manager or I was a recruiting person. I have nothing against these roles, but by default, the reason they're assuming these is because there are more women in those areas. So is that gender bias? Maybe it is. But did it affect me negatively? I actually don't think so. Because all it took is a few sentences to clarify what your role is. Then you move on to the topic that you want to talk about. But these were more, so my experiences have been more subtle and not heavily impactful. But they're there. And I always like to think of it as everyone should be aware of what others may be thinking, or just being okay with people have a different frame of reference. But how do you proactively clarify and still establish yourself or your point of view despite that? So that's my experience.
Yeah. So all in all, it's like being assertive and being confident in your own abilities, right? No, because
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you don't need to please everybody, or you don't need everyone to support you. You just need to be clear about which are the relationships that are worth investing in for you and valuing for you, and being just confident about what you would like to achieve and your ability to get there.
Correct. So leadership in the engineering fraternity is mostly, the men who are part of this circle of engineering leadership. The very few women who have, broken that proverbial glass ceiling and, are part of the leadership roles in engineering companies. And you are one of them. So what do you think is that factor that has really pushed you to that level?
I think maybe a couple of things. I think just passion for technology, like never let that curiosity which got you into that college, why did you choose to pursue that? Never let that curiosity and interest in technology die, because as long as you're passionate, you're always asking and seeking to understand the latest technology and really understanding the technology itself, because you speak with people about it, you read about it. That's very important in establishing credibility with technical audience, and beyond that, be able to influence, to be a leader. At Google, for example, it's a very innovative culture. So even recently, I've been part of, I've had the opportunity to lead a few proposals that are influencing how Google is looking at AI. And you're doing it because you're passionate about technology and you're willing to go and give ideas to people. You're willing to meet with people, put the energy into changing status quo. And I think that is true for anyone who wants to be a leader in technology, male or female. You need to first have passion in technology, constant willingness to learn, and putting energy and ideas into the mix, and constantly looking at what can I change, what can I scale, what can I do better. And I feel these apply to both men and women. So I would say those are the things to keep in mind. Wherever you are, whichever company you work, whatever career you choose, always look at how you can challenge status quo and make something, may bring step function change or innovation into the mix.
Right. So today, many are debating about DEI. It has become the buzzword in many circles. How do you see the current landscape of diversity and inclusion initiatives? Would love to hear your thoughts about DEI company investments, especially since you are in the Valley.
Absolutely. This is a very, very important topic. And I'm very proud and happy that I work at a place, Google, which is one of the best companies, absolutely best companies in investing in diversity and inclusion. Because, I've learned a lot about how to think deeper. Many places think of it as how do we get more women into X, Y, or Z programs, which is great. Women, or based on racial minorities or other subsegments. In the Bay Area, for example, race is a big consideration for inclusion as well. And those are excellent and necessary. Beyond that, at Google, we think of inclusion and diversity even when building products, which is amazing. Because, for example, in Google TV, we have a whole row which we use both automation and manual review to operationalize, which is how do we bring diverse content from across the world, produced from different races, countries, languages, into our top rows. So our algorithms themselves are influenced by considerations of diversity and inclusion. And I think, so you should really wake up thinking about how you build products for everybody in the world. Like we actually have processes at Google and therefore at Google TV, where we are thinking about how would a disabled person watch TV? Like if the person is visually disabled, how can we make sure the audio works for them? So really thinking and imbibing what it means to build for everyone in the world, and to get everyone in the world connected to the best possible information, best possible entertainment, best possible product. I really think once you internalize it, it's not just a humane thing to do, it's also smart business sense. And I think once leaders of every company and every field actually understand it, we will really see a magical difference in the world. So I feel every leader who has a voice or a seat at the table should be influencing something, at least one thing proactively, all the time.
Yeah. And I seriously believe that it has to be the change that you wish to see in the world, right? So it starts with me, whether I'm a man or a woman. If I believe in this particular concept or this idea and I see it to completion, that's where I see a different world altogether.
Yes, that's exactly right. I think everyone can do at least one step very easily.
Correct.
I think we can't afford to be passive about this. So at Google, I've had the opportunity to start mentorship programs to help women, or participate as mentor in additional programs for women or minorities as well. So very thrilled to be at a place which is so supportive and explicit about this.
So let's talk about NIA. What inspired NIA and how do you work towards achieving the objectives of NIA?
Absolutely. NIA and IBIC both have very overlapping goals and very exciting goals, in my opinion. What attracted me to NIA was, the founder, Arjun, is actually my classmate from college, Anna University. So when he reached out to talk to me about the efforts that NIA had been on, it struck a chord with me because all of us, I think, know cousins or people in at least our second level network, distant cousins or second level network, where you can see that the girls and boys in the family have different access to education, how much willingness to spend for a boy's education versus a girl's education. There are some subtle differences, especially you can see this outside the big cities in India. If the family is socioeconomically constrained and they have to pick and choose which one to send to the more expensive colleges, which typically tech education is more expensive, and they might decide to just persuade the girl to pursue arts. I have nothing against arts as long as it's the girl's choice, right? It's more of we can only spend for engineering college for one kid, so we're going to put the boy in engineering and the girl in arts is not as rare as we would like. And we personally know examples of girls who are just extended family, which means very similar social factors, but they literally dropped out of high school or hardly finished high school and got married. They had kids, and basically that's the end of the career personal dreams. And so when Arjun also shared a story like that he had experienced, and he said he had started NIA to address that, which is how can we take away the socio-economic barriers for girls to pursue their education through high school, college, at least, and now at least landing a job. And also they could share hundreds of examples of girls that have already been positively impacted. And Serena, some of these girls have become pharmacists, teachers and doctors, so not just uplifting themselves and their families, but their whole communities now, right? So for me, that struck a chord on a personal level because I did have distant cousins, I can imagine, having gone through these constraints.
Yeah.
Yes, the impact was great. And of course, another reason to hang out with my college friends. So some of my college classmates are on the board as well. So those reasons really attracted me to NIA and its cause.
So what has been NIA's journey? How have you really begun to make a difference? Are you seeing that culture shift? Are you seeing a little progress in the Indian culture of women's empowerment? What has been your experience working through NIA?
I can see a big difference. I think the way NIA works is more at the grassroots, which is if we touch one girl, one family at a time, then we uplift a community. So I think they've crossed 600 girls now, which is a big deal.
Wow, nice.
And they have formal tracking program, tracking of the success through each stage of the program. They have formal distribution channels for distributing the funding and really becoming very data-driven in how we are approaching it compared to the grassroots that was a couple of years ago. We have started a podcast series also in NIA, and hopefully we can do joint ones now that we are partners with IBIC as well. So that was launched last year. And also we started a series called Chai and Chat, which is live hosting for fundraising for NIA as well. But we also bring more and more of our networks in the US to help and mentor girls who are part of NIA alumni. One of the things we're also looking ahead is how do we mentor these girls who are now in college or finishing college to successfully make that transition into jobs, which is where Prabhita and I connected recently, and we're now looking at partnership, as you know. So very excited about the pilot we just started with IBIC. So we want to take this mentorship partnership to the next level. That's one of our joint goals with you all. And the next goal is also, as we get more alumni from NIA who are going into college and starting to get into the industry, how can we help them come back and join as mentors, uplifting the next generation of girls? Because as you pointed out earlier, nothing like a role model.
Yes.
And imagine if the role model is also an alumnus of NIA,
Correct.
which the next generation girls in middle school can see and look up to. So we want to start the alumni program as we see more and more girls getting past the post-college mentorship, landing jobs. We want to bring them back into the alumni network. So those are our goals, future goals from here.
Absolutely. Do you have any as you see if you were a younger self as a recent graduate, what advice would you give to these young women to navigate the early stages of their career more effectively?
I think, I consider myself a lifelong learner, so there's probably a lot of things I'm still learning. But when I think of the younger self, I would just say keep going. Don't let anything stop you. And it's again, just put your energy into it. You can make change happen for yourself, and you can make change happen for everybody else. And don't assume people in positions of authority always know the answers or know the right thing. You can question. You don't have to be a difficult person about it, but you can question it and keep nudging and carving out your own path. Don't assume that someone else has to carve the path for you, and don't assume you don't have the energy to do it. You empower yourself and keep going.
The recent pilot mentorship program that we did for these girls, and we can really gauge the interest level, the desire, or their deep felt passion to excel in life and get out of that first generation study or first generation success as women. So it's really inspiring to listen to their journeys and learn from them, as we are enjoying mentoring them, and our mentors are putting in a lot of effort to understand, to empathize with them, and give them at least that small hope, or nurture that fire in them, that they continue pursuing their dreams. So thank you, Shobana, for being part of this chat, and it's really an eye opener for most of our listeners on what they can achieve, if they have the passion and get at it consistently, committedly, all the time. So thank you, Shobana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure. Thank you, Serena, for hosting me. And as you said, it's very inspiring to work with the young girls and see the fire in them, because it
Yes.
almost like rekindles the fire in you.
Correct.
So I think mentorship is as much a benefit for mentors as it is for mentees.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. So thank you, Shobana.
Awesome. Looking forward to a continued great partnership.